for me, out of all your accomplishments, I have to start from one I find most impressive, which is that you have 7 children. And the reason I find that impressive is because I've got 2 boys, and sometimes I feel outnumbered as a dad. Um, how do you ever manage to get anything done with 7 kids around?
Well, you have to remember, I didn't have them all at once.
No.
I've had 4 from 2 previous marriages, and then the last 3 I had from the last marriage. So therefore, the 4 first kids are grown pretty much, so they're out of the house. It's only the last 3 that I have that are babies.
So how old are your youngest now?
8 months.
8 months. Oh, so you're in the thick of it right now, changing diapers and sleepless nights.
Listen, I don't complain about it where some people do. I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually miss that. My boys are 11 and 6 now, and I actually really miss those days when they're so tiny and they fall asleep on you. They are
Absolutely.
the magic years, aren't they?
Absolutely, my friend.
Yeah. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Terrence and Terrell who've gone on to work inside an AEW ring and very much kind of following your footsteps, as Taz has said, a chip off the old block. What's it been like to be part of their wrestling journey so far?
It's been fun. It's been real, giving them advice, helping them out along the way. They're no longer with AEW. They've left, and they're now pursuing NXT, which I think is fantastic. In my opinion, regardless to where I've been over the years of my career, WWE has always been my home. It's been my first and foremost place that I would call home. And so with that being said, I would love for my sons to do the same thing. Again, they'll have their own opinion on what home is, but, they've been around all the WrestleManias, the Monday Night Raws, the SmackDowns, where other people were fascinated and what we call in this business marked out for people like The Rock and, Eddie Guerrero, all the stars, Chris Jericho, Edge, Christian, to them, it was Uncle Rock. To them, it was Uncle Edge, Uncle, Christian, because they grew up with them.
Mm.
And, we were a family during the Attitude Era. So we all embraced each other's families and really, really enjoyed it. Just like Dominic. I knew Dominic when Dominic was 3 years old, walking around with Eddie, with a bottle in his mouth. Now he's a grown-ass man hanging out with mommy and causing mischief in WWE. So, it's amazing how, times have changed. I remember when the Usos were running around in catering with Terrence and Terrell. They were barely in they were barely in junior high, when I first met the Usos, because their father and I basically ran rapid up and down the highways, creating matches that people still talk about today. So it's one of those things where family was very important back then, and it still is now, even in the WWE. So, I'm happy to say that all of these kids that have grown up and now becoming second generation wrestlers have now taken over where their fathers left off. And I'm very proud to say Terrence and Terrell have done the same thing.
And it's amazing because, NXT, the Performance Center, all the infrastructure that exists now for this generation is incredible compared to, obviously, when you were training to become a wrestler, isn't it? It's amazing the opportunities that are there now.
There's different, the way I grew up in the business was extremely old school. You didn't talk back, you didn't say anything, and if you did, you got beat up. Yeah. And there was nothing you could do about it, It was a lot harder back then, believe it or not, because it wasn't what you knew, it was who you knew back then. The business was very sacred back then. Kayfabe hadn't been broken yet, so nobody knew the ins and outs of pro wrestling or even how to get involved in it. It was a different generation back then. And it's a lot easier for people now to be able to break into the business. They can find a wrestling school, contact the WWE online, send in their resume, the whole nine. It is somewhat of a who you know nowadays, but not as much as it was back when I, grew up in the business. A lot of people like to say, and I know Bubba brings this to the forefront, is that we were the last of the old school generation. We were the last of the true dynasty. And, this generation feels like things should be handed to them and things like that. Certain people, not all. There are some people in this business that have respect for the business and respect for those that have come before them. But there are others that haven't been brought up in the business the right way and yet take it south.